Part 1. The architecture of a ghost. Asterisk. Asterisk. Have you ever met someone who is profoundly, unnervingly good? The kind of person whose kindness feels like a reflex, whose patience seems bottomless, who absorbs frustration without ever reflecting it back. This isn't a story about sainthood. It's a story about a psychological vanishing act. Meet Alex. To everyone who knows him, Alex is the human equivalent of a shock absorber. In his friend group, he's the reliable one, the planner who remembers birthdays and never complains when dinner runs late. At work, he's the steady hand, the one who takes on the messy, invisible tasks without being asked. His voice is calm, his smile is consistent, his presence is agreeable, unfailingly so. If you asked his colleagues to describe him, they'd struggle. He's just a really nice guy. They wouldn't be able to name his favourite movie, his political leanings, or what truly angers him. Not because Alex is secretive, but because he has perfected the art of being a reflection. He mirrors your mood, affirms your opinion, and prioritizes your comfort always. His own interior world has been so carefully quieted it's become inaudible. From the outside, this looks like emotional maturity, the ultimate team player, the conflict-averse peacekeeper. But inside, it feels like living in a house made of one-way glass. You can see out, you can anticipate needs and navigate moods, but no one can ever truly see in. There is a deep, chronic loneliness in being the most agreeable person in the room. It's the loneliness of never being known because you've made yourself unknowable. This isn't simply shyness. This is a sophisticated psychological architecture built for a single-purpose safety. For Alex and millions like him, agreement became a survival language learned young. It was the dialect of a childhood where love felt conditional, where a wrong opinion could mean a parent's cold withdrawal, where an expressed need was met with sighing resentment. He learned neuron by neuron that his authentic self, with its messy desires, its sharp edges, its differing thoughts, was an inconvenience, a problem to be solved. So he solved it. He buried it. He became an expert in time's interception, times not of others, but of himself. He could feel a spark of irritation flare in his chest, and in the milliseconds before it reached his face, he would translate it into a neutral blink. He could sense a boundary being crossed, and instead of the somatic jolt of asterisk, stop asterisk, he'd feel a wave of calming chemicals self-administered. His nervous system had been rewired to perceive his own natural reactions as threats to the social ecosystem. His true self became the liability. The pleasant ghost he presented became the primary resident. The cost of this is a quiet, pervasive exhaustion. It's the weight of 1,000 unsaid words, 100 unexpressed preferences, dozens of swallowed no's. His relationships are smooth, but they lack texture. They are frictionless and therefore depthless. He is loved for his function, his reliability, his ease, not for his substance. Because he has hidden the substance away. We call this being a people pleaser, a term that sounds almost quaint, like a minor social flaw. But it's not a personality trait. It's a asterisk system asterisk, a complex self-regulating mechanism for emotional risk management. The agreeable person isn't just being nice. They are engaged in a constant, unconscious calculus times. If I remove my wants, my needs, my disagreeable humanity from the equation, then I cannot be rejected. I will be safe. Asterisk. But here is the plot twist, the quiet earthquake in this psychological landscape. Asterisk. The person Alex is most successfully gaslighting is himself. Asterisk. He has convinced his own mind that this ghost is the real person, that the echoes of others' opinions are his own thoughts, that the absence of desire is contentment. He has so thoroughly protected himself from the perceived danger of rejection that he has created a far more profound isolation, the rejection of the self by the self. The moment of crisis then is never a dramatic blow-up. It's a quiet shattering. It's the Tuesday afternoon when a colleague takes credit for his work times, and instead of anger, he feels nothing. A hollow, chilling nothing. It's catching his own reflection in a window and realizing he doesn't know the man looking back. It's the terrifying realization that the fortress he built to keep others out has become the prison keeping him in. The exhaustion is no longer just fatigue, it's depletion. The soul has been on a permanent standby mode, and the battery is now reporting 1%. Not because the world has asked too much of him, but because he has asked too much of himself to perpetually be less than he is. This is where the real story begins. Not with a rebellion, but with a failure, the failure of a survival strategy that has run its course. The ghost is tired of haunting its own life, and the only way out is to do the very thing the entire system was built to prevent, to become visible. to be disagreeable, to take up space, and to risk being a problem. The journey back to the self starts with a single terrifying question whispered in the hollowed-out silence. Asterisk. What do I want? Asterisk. And the first answer is almost always the same, times I don't know. Asterisk. Because the I who would know has been asleep for a very, very long time. Have you ever met someone who seems to have no edges? The person in the meeting who always nods, the friend who never picks the restaurant, the partner whose hobbies mysteriously align with yours. They are the human equivalent of neutral. Wallpaper, pleasant, inoffensive, and ultimately a background character in their own life. This isn't about being easygoing. This is about a psychological vanishing act so complete the person performing it often forgets they're on stage. Let's call him Leo. Leo is the master of the preemptive apology. He says sorry for the weather, for taking up space on the sidewalk, for having an opinion that might theoretically cause someone a microsecond of discomfort. His voice has a practiced gentle cadence that never spikes, never dips into conviction. He has become a master curator of other people's comfort, a living, breathing shock absorber for the world's vibrations. His relationships are smooth, too smooth. There are no arguments because Leo disarms them before they begin. There is no conflict because he has quietly removed every part of himself that could cause one. He has mistaken the absence of friction for the presence of peace. But the body keeps score, and Leo's body is a ledger of silent withdrawals. The low-grade hum of anxiety that feels like his native soundtrack. The shallow breath he holds when someone speaks to him. The profound bone-deep tiredness that comes not from doing but from the endless invisible labour of time's unbecoming asterisk. This is the architecture of the ghost self. It is not built in a day but brick by invisible brick, starting in the quiet laboratories of childhood. Perhaps there was a parent whose love felt conditional, a volatile atmosphere where a wrong opinion could shift the emotional weather. Maybe it was simply the acute early lesson that his natural, messy, demanding self was times too much asterisk. So he learned the core algorithm, asterisk asterisk, presence equals risk, lickability equals safety, asterisk asterisk. He learned to scan a room not for exits, but for emotional landmines. He learned to translate his own desires into a foreign language, then forgot the original words entirely. His inner world became a diplomatic summit where only the opinions of others had a seat at the table. His own voice was relegated to a silent observer, taking meticulous notes on how to be less himself. The payoff was immediate. He was praised for being so mature, so low maintenance. The world rewarded his disappearance. And so the ghost solidified, mistaking the applause for the audience as proof he'd found the right role. But here is the plot twist, the silent, screaming truth in this empty room. Asterisk, asterisk. The person Leo has been most diligently abandoning day after day is Leo. Asterisk, asterisk. He has not been gaslit by a villain. He has been gaslit by a survival instinct. He is both the prisoner and the warden, faithfully locking the door to a cell he doesn't remember choosing. The ultimate rejection was not from the world. It was the preemptive, wholesale rejection of his own humanity to avoid the world's potential slight. The crisis, therefore, is not a confrontation. It is an evaporation. It's the moment his partner, frustrated by his perpetual neutrality, screams, "Just tell me what you times want, times for once," and his mind offers only a blinding, terrifying static. It's looking at a menu and realizing every "I don't mind" has erased his ability to taste. It's the horrifying awareness that if he were to disappear, the ripple in his relationships would be negligible. A testament to how little of himself he had ever actually shown up. The ghost has haunted its own life so thoroughly, it has begun to fade. This is where the real work begins. Not with a roar, but with a tremor. A faulty signal from a soul on life support. It starts with the body, with the breath he's been holding for 30 years. A therapist points out he sits curled in on himself, as if making a smaller target. She doesn't ask him what he feels. She asks him times where, times he feels it. And in the silence, he notices a tight, hot fist of pressure behind his sternum. That, she says softly, is a want. It's a feeling with no name yet, but it is a times something asterisk. It is a landmark in the flat line. The journey back is clumsy. It is saying, "I'd rather see the other movie," and feeling like a declaration of war. It is pausing in a conversation, letting the awkward silence bloom, because his real answer is still loading. It is the visceral shock of someone being annoyed with him, and the subsequent earth-shattering realization that he survived it. He is not building a new self. He is excavating a buried one. Each recovered desire each tolerated conflict, each moment of chosen visibility is a brick removed from the prison wall. The light is frightening, the air is cold, but it is real, and one day he will catch his reflection and see not a ghost but a man, flawed, specific, and finally undeniably present. The most radical act of rebellion was not to become someone else but to finally, terrifyingly come home to himself. If you saw yourself in this quiet story, consider this your permission slip. Your wants are not burdens. Your edges are what give you shape. The world may have rewarded your disappearance, but only your presence can grant you a life. What is one tiny, almost invisible thing you actually prefer? Start there. The silence after you answer is not danger. It is the sound of your own soul listening. It starts with a question so simple it's disarming. What do you times like asterisk? Not what do you tolerate? Not what's efficient or polite or expected. What do you actually quietly times like asterisk? For the ghost, it's a crisis. It scans the archives of a life lived as a reaction and finds them empty. Preferences were a liability. A declared favourite movie could be mocked. A chosen restaurant could disappoint someone. It was safer to be a mirror reflecting back whatever desire was loudest in the room. To have a times want times was to create a target. So the system learned to delete the data at the source. But here's the psychological twist. This isn't just people pleasing. This is asterisk, preemptive appeasement, asterisk. It's the brain's desperate strategy to control a chaotic emotional environment by eliminating the very variables, your own desires, that might trigger conflict. You don't just avoid saying no, you meticulously dismantle your own times, capacity times to have a yes that matters. You gaslight yourself into emptiness. The ghost didn't just hide. He performed a full psychological delete on the person who might need to hide. The ultimate peace was the peace of no self at all. So when the tremor begins, it feels less like awakening and more like a system failure. A corrupted file, long thought erased suddenly trying to open. That first clumsy preference is an act of profound violence against the old rules. Asterisk. I don't really like action movies. Asterisk. The words hang in the air, foreign and dangerous. He braces for impact, the eye roll, the sigh, the you're no fun, but the friend just shrugs. Cool, what do you want to watch instead? The absence of punishment is more destabilizing than any conflict. His nervous system, wired for aftermath, is left idling. It was prepared for a storm. It doesn't know what to do with the quiet sun. This is the recalibration. Each tiny act of specificity is a shock to a system built on generic survival. Ordering the dish he actually craves, not the one that's easiest to share. Letting a silence sit because his true opinion is still forming. These are not just choices. They are asterisk, neurological rebellions, asterisk. With each one, a dormant pathway fires. A connection long severed sparks back to life. The ghost is not becoming someone new. He is conducting a forensic recovery of a person who was always there, buried under years of preemptive surrender. The anger, when it finally comes, isn't hot or loud. It's a deep, cold clarity. Times I have been apologizing for my own existence. Asterisk. And then comes the plot twist, the one that changes the entire story. The ghost always believed his invisibility was a shield, a way to avoid being a burden. But he sees it now from the outside. His relationships were not peaceful. They were asterisk, neglected, asterisk. By refusing to bring his fullness, his needs, his quirks, his inconvenient truths, he wasn't protecting people. He was starving them. He was offering them a hologram to love and then wondering why the connection felt hollow. His greatest fear was being too much. But his crime was being asterisk, too little, asterisk. He made himself negligible and then felt guilty for the loneliness that followed. The prison wasn't built by others. It was built by his own terrified hands, brick by brick, to keep a world he feared out. And in doing so, he locked his true self in. The moment of healing isn't a shout. It's a sigh, a release of a breath held for a lifetime. It's the realization that asterisk visibility is not an attack, asterisk. It is an invitation. It is the only way real love can find you. To be seen is to be findable. To have edges is to be touchable. A ghost can be mourned, but it can never be held. The world may have rewarded your silence. It may have called it politeness, called it easygoing, called it low maintenance. But it was a slow death by erasure. So start with the smallest possible rebellion. The coffee order you don't modify to sound simpler. The shirt you wear because you like the color, not because it blends in. That tiny flicker of a want is not a burden. It is a beacon. It is the first signal back to a world you've been observing from a distance, saying, "Times I am here. I am specific. And I am finally terrifyingly ready to arrive." Asterisk. What is one invisible preference you've been editing out? Name it. The silence after is not judgment. It is the world listening for you. And then comes the plot twist, the one that changes the entire story. The ghost did not realize he had been speaking a language of absence his entire life. His quietness wasn't humility. It was a preemptive surrender ***. He thought he was making room for others, but he was actually clearing the stage for a performance he never agreed to star in. He believed his needs were an intrusion, so he translated them out of existence. He became a master of emotional subtitles, narrating a simpler, quieter version of himself for public consumption. But here is the devastating twist, ***. The people who loved him weren't looking for a performance. They were searching for a person. ***. They kept reaching for him in the places he used to occupy, his passions, his opinions, his messy, unfiltered reactions, and found only polite, furnished emptiness. His greatest act of supposed kindness, making himself easy to be around, was in the end a profound act of relational sabotage. He wasn't protecting them from his chaos. He was depriving them of his texture. The loneliness he felt wasn't imposed. It was ***, architected ***. Brick by careful brick, he had built a beautiful, empty gallery and hung no art on the walls, then wondered why visitors never stayed long. He mistook the echo of his own hollow spaces for the sound of peace. The moment of healing isn't an explosion of personality. It's the quiet seismic shift of ***, reclaiming a pronoun ***. It's moving the I from the background to the center of the sentence. ***, I prefer. I dislike. I need. I am. ***. It feels at first like a violent act, a grammatical rebellion. But it is simply the end of a long self-erasure. The world does not collapse when you state a preference. It ***, calibrates ***. It adjusts to your presence. Your specific gravity begins to pull things toward you, the right conversations, the right people, the right opportunities that were always meant for the real you, not the pleasant ghost they met. You were not born to be a footnote in someone else's story. You were born to author your own. The blank page you've been living on is not safety. It is a waiting room. So make the first mark. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It can be a stain, a smudge, a single defiant word. Let it be awkward. Let it be imperfect. Let it be undeniably, specifically, ***, yours, ***. The world has had enough of your ghost. It's time to meet the person who's been haunting it. Part 5. The curator of the empty gallery. He became a master of emotional subtitles, narrating a simpler, quieter version of himself for public consumption. He learned to translate his complex inner world into a bland, universally palatable dialect. He offered summaries instead of stories, polite agreements instead of perspectives, a calm nod where a real reaction should have lived. He was not dishonest. He was meticulously edited. He believed he was being considerate, sparing the world the burden of his depth, his intensity, the weather systems of his inner life. He called it maturity. He called it peace. But here is the devastating twist, ***. The people who loved him weren't looking for a performance. They were searching for a person. ***. They kept reaching for him in the places he used to occupy. The spark of a forgotten passion, the heat of a buried opinion, the messy, unfiltered laugh that used to shake his whole frame and found only polite, furnished emptiness. His greatest act of supposed kindness, making himself easy to be around, was in the end a profound act of relational sabotage. He wasn't protecting them from his chaos. He was depriving them of his texture. He had mistaken the absence of conflict for the presence of connection, and in the void their affection quietly starved. The loneliness he felt wasn't imposed. It was ***, architected ***. Brick by careful brick, he had built a beautiful empty gallery. The lighting was perfect. The floors were spotless. The walls were a serene, neutral tone. But he had hung no art on the walls, then wondered why visitors never stayed long. He had curated the space for a phantom, and then felt abandoned by the crowd. He mistook the echo of his own hollow spaces for the sound of peace. The moment of healing isn't an explosion of personality. It's the quiet seismic shift of ***, reclaiming a pronoun ***. It's moving the I from the background to the center of the sentence. I prefer this. I dislike that. I need a moment. I am not okay with this. It feels at first like a violent act, a grammatical rebellion against a lifetime of silent compliance. But it is not an attack. It is simply the end of a long self-erasure. It is the signature on a canvas that has been blank for too long. The world does not collapse when you state a preference. It calibrates. It adjusts to your presence, your specific gravity, and you begin to feel it a new pull. The right conversations find you drawn to the magnet of your authenticity. The right people recognize the frequency you finally started to broadcast. Opportunities that were always meant for the real you, not the pleasant ghost they met, begin to drift into orbit. You stop attracting what fits the facade and start attracting what resonates with the foundation. You were not born to be a footnote in someone else's story, a minor character written in faint pencil. You were born to author your own. The blank page you've been living on, that safe, inoffensive beige existence, is not safety. It is a waiting room, and you have been waiting for permission that was never anyone else's to give. So make the first mark. It doesn't have to be let it be undeniably, specifically, yours, The world has had enough of your ghost. It's time to meet the person who's been haunting it.